When autumn burned gold. Maple Ridge, Vermont, wasn't on anyone's list of must-see places, but for Elle Foster, it was where her mother had been born, and where her own roots, tangled and forgotten, had waited quietly. After a draining breakup and the slow burn of losing her job in Manhattan's corporate whirlwind, Elle packed what was left of her belongings into a second-hand Jeep and headed north. All she had was a journal, a map dotted with her mother's memories, and the key to a cottage she had only visited once as a child. She had no intention of staying long. But then the first leaf fell. She arrived in early October, when the hills were beginning to smolder with golds, oranges, and the deep, aching reds of the season. The cottage stood just beyond a grove of sugar maples, overlooking a sleepy lake. Her mother's handwriting on old postcards guided her like breadcrumbs. "This is where I kissed your father, where I cried when I got the acceptance letter, where I thought I'd never leave." Elle felt like she was stepping into someone else's dream, walking trails worn down by a version of her family she had never known. The locals were curious, but polite. She met them in fragments, a wave from the grocer, a nod from the librarian, a warm coffee and warmer silence from the old couple running the general store. And then there was Theo. She met him when her car wouldn't start. He arrived in an old Ford pickup, with a dog named Bean and a grin like something carved from cedar. He was the town mechanic, part-time woodworker, full-time enigma. There was something disarmingly calm about him, the way he talked about trees like they were old friends, or how he never asked too much but always noticed everything. He fixed her Jeep, but also offered to check in on the heating system in the cottage. Vermont winters weren't kind, he warned. But his eyes were. One afternoon, Elle found an old sketchbook tucked between the floorboards of her mother's room. It was filled with pencil drawings, of the lake, of maple leaves, of a man she didn't recognize. The pages whispered stories she'd never heard. Each drawing was captioned with a single line, "When the trees turn gold, you'll understand." That line stayed with her. It echoed through her chest like an unanswered call. She began to explore more, waking with the sun to hike misty trails and sipping tea as geese crossed the sky in perfect formations. She began journaling again, at first just small entries, but soon pages poured out. The cottage became a cocoon, a space between the life she had left and the one she hadn't imagined yet. And slowly, Theo began to fill that space. They started spending evenings together, chopping wood, stargazing on the dock, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his sister, a painter who had left Maple Ridge to chase galleries in California. She told him about Manhattan, about burnout, about how she sometimes felt like she was running but didn't know from what. He listened like the world was quiet when she spoke. One night, while they sat by the fireplace, she asked, "Do you ever feel like you missed your life by staying here?" He shook his head. "No. I think life finds you, if you're paying attention." By mid-October, the leaves exploded into color. The hills looked aflame, the sky impossibly blue against the fire of autumn. Elle stood at the edge of the lake one morning, wrapped in a blanket, watching golden leaves drift onto the water. And she finally understood. The drawing in her mother's sketchbook, the man with laughing eyes, the dog at his feet, the trees burning gold behind him, it was Theo. Or someone who looked just like him. She raced back to the cottage, flipping through every page, breath caught in her throat. Could it be his father? His grandfather? Theo stared at the sketchbook when she showed him. Quietly, he said, "That's my grandfather, Samuel. He was your mom's first love. She used to come here every summer until college." His fingers brushed the page like it was sacred. "I didn't know she drew." Elle blinked back the rush of emotion. She never talked about him. "Maybe she didn't know how," he said gently. And suddenly, Elle felt less like a visitor and more like someone returning to a forgotten part of herself. The next days passed in a haze of discovery and warmth. They hosted a bonfire with neighbors. Theo taught her to drive his boat around the lake. She began illustrating again, inspired by her mother's legacy, sketching leaves and lanterns and laughing eyes. And she knew, this place was no longer temporary. On the last day of October, with the last leaves falling and the first frost painting the windows, Theo took her hand. "Stay," he said, simple and steady. "Stay, and let's make this more than a season." Elle looked around, the trees, the water, the sketchbook open on the porch swing, and felt the ache of her old life loosen its grip. She smiled, heart steady for the first time in years. "I was waiting for the trees to turn gold," she said. "Now I know why." Evergreen Tree Call to Action. If you loved Elle and Theo's golden love story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Love. 2 hearts. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever found healing in unexpected places? Maple Leaf.